Hi, I'm Jeff Gray with Mercedes-Benz of Kansas City, and I'm outstanding in my field with 3 vans that are outstanding in their fields. And all of these 3 vans are for sale at Mercedes-Benz of Kansas City. And I wanted to just take a second to give you an objective comparison of the 3. First, we've got the 2018 Mercedes-Benz Sprinter passenger van. To my left, we've got the 2015 Ford Transit passenger van. And to my right, we've got the 2015 Dodge Promaster cargo van. Now let me just say, why am I comparing a cargo van to 2 passenger vans? Well, I think the saying goes, do what you can with what you have where you're at, and so I have a cargo van. And for all purposes, we're gonna rename this Promaster to Bromaster. So for the rest of the day, we're gonna be talking about the Dodge Ram Bromaster. Okay, so first, let me start with the Ford Transit passenger van. This is many shades of gray out here. We've got a dark gray, very lovely van. This is the longer wheelbase with the mid roof. This is actually a 15 passenger van with the 3.5 EcoBoost turbo. This is a very nice driving van. The 2018 passenger vans, the 144 wheelbase, it only comes in 2 roof heights. On the passenger van, the only option is the high roof. This is with the 3-liter turbo diesel. That engine's been in these vans for about 8 years now. And then the Bromaster, it's a pretty cool engine. It's the 3-liter 4-cylinder diesel engine along with a dual clutch transmission. So this is a manual transmission that is electrically shifted. Very neat little van. I will say, it's like having a baby pug. They're just the cutest little vans, but it is what it is. So phenomenal vehicle. Let's take a step inside and look at how these vans are laid out. So let me preface this walk around by saying that we are in Kansas City, and Kansas City is Ford country. And I've lived in Kansas City my whole life, so we are a big proponent of Ford in our family. Each one of these manufacturers, each one of these products have really positive qualities, as well as some areas that could stand for improvement. I'm not really here to point any negatives out, but just more point out some things that I've noticed with my experience in the vans. First of all, you've got a great spot for a cup holder, another spot for your 1-liter. Very interesting, maybe a spot for some business cards. So the Ford is very conscious about the needs of a contractor or someone who needs a lot of extra space. The cockpit is very comfortable, and I do have to admit that with the 3.5 EcoBoost, in my honest opinion, this van drives the best out of the 3 at highway speeds. It's not quite as tall as the Transit, so it's a little bit more stable. And truth be told, that EcoBoost motor, it runs really, really well. This particular van has 93,000 miles. It's a 2015, so it's well broken in. Still runs like a top. And yeah, it's very, very, very nice, very comfortable. I do say that it is limited. It's kind of tight in here, and I like other vans in that you can get out from your seat and go back to the back, but nonetheless, this is very comfortable. Not a ton of room in here, but comfortable nonetheless. One thing that I am not a huge fan of is the tiny screen. So there's your backup camera, and it's just got an itty-bitty screen. I'm pretty sure that my Apple Watch has a bigger screen than that. So yeah, not knocking the Ford, but that is kind of a drawback of this. So again, this is the mid roof on the Ford Transit. I'm actually super jealous of the seat configuration in this. The way it's set up is when all the seats, and we have all the seats out so we can use it. But the way the seats are set up, it seats 4, 3, 3, and 3. I think the math is right to make this a 15 passenger. Up until 2019, Mercedes-Benz did not offer a 15 passenger. and all they really do offer is in a bench seat. So you have an aisle on this one. The seats are here. You actually have an aisle that you can walk all the way back to the very back, and I think that is a phenomenal design. I'm very jealous. I wish that was on the Sprinter van. However, I'm here to sell them. I'm not here to design them. The mid roof, there is a little bit more comfortable height, but you can't stand up completely in that. I also want you to take a look at the seats. All of the seats in each three of these vans are very commercial, very utilitarian. I will say I'm not a huge fan of the upholstery choices in the Transit. They are comfortable, but over 90,000 miles, this did get a lot of use, and they cleaned up nicely. But I'd say they're not the most sturdy, in my opinion, of the three vans, but still a very nice seat. And the seat configuration, they are comfy, and I think the seat configuration of the two passenger vans is the best in this one. Yeah, great little van. You've got your rooftop air conditioning, your floor heat down here on the bottom. Just yeah, laid out pretty well. I wanted to point one other thing out, and that is the floor mat on the Transit. I wish they would have done something a little bit more solid here. It is just more of a rubber mat layover. It's nice and it works, but you'll see when we look at the other two vans, and again, you know, each manufacturer has their strengths and their weaknesses. I just think that maybe they could do a little bit better job on the floor itself here on this. The 2018 Mercedes-Benz Sprinter passenger van. This has the leatherette. It's pretty solid. This is obviously just a little bit nicer than the Transit upholstery. It's sturdy. I have noticed that when these get really high mileage, even the cloth upholstery holds up pretty dang well to the wear and tear of the vehicle. As you can see on the floor, the material is a little bit more sturdy, if you will. It's still a soft rubber, or it's a softer rubber, but it just seems a little bit more industrial. And you'll also see that the cockpit space is a little bit more open, which lends itself to a whole lot more maneuverability when you're inside the vehicle. The turn signal and cruise control are set up a little bit different than on the Transit, and from an American driver standpoint, this might take a little bit of getting used to than compared to the Ford Transit. You know, a lot of times our cruise control buttons are on the steering wheel themselves. Here it's actually up here, so you might find yourself flipping this to use your turn signal for a little bit, but it's not anything that's too hard to overcome. It is very ergonomic. I wouldn't say it's plush by any means, and I'd almost venture to say that in the seat in the Transit is more comfortable in the amount of cushion that is there. But this is very firm, and you can tell it will hold up very well, which it does. You know, I didn't point this out in the other Transit. This is one of my favorite features, is the center stack. You have quite a bit of dash cargo compartment space. Your screen is also quite a bit larger, and that's a plus. I do believe that the radio is a little bit more, I do feel rather that the radio is a little bit more intuitive in this than in the Transit. But nonetheless, still a very utilitarian vehicle, still a very nice but simply laid out vehicle. This one does have quite a few more options that I truthfully don't know whether or not they're in the Transit, such as you've got lane keep assist, collision prevention assist, blind spot assist, which is huge. This also has parking detection sensors, so when you get close to something, when you're backing up, it'll beep at you to let you know. Also comes with heated seats, which I'm certain are optional, but just not available on that van. So still very utilitarian. One of my favorite features also is the ability to get from the driver's seat to to pretty much anywhere in the van. You kind of have to crawl, but you can get from the front seat to the back row without any problem. Now, I will say that these seats are nicer, they're firmer. All 3 rows come out. I want to go out on a limb to say that they're not quite as fun as the Ford Transit. It'd be cooler to see kind of a half a bench over here, a row down the middle, 2 seats over here, but this works. Now, if you want to go with an aftermarket builder, you can put any kind of seats you want, and I mean, sky's the limit. You can put a hot tub back here. So, but this is just one area that I think we could have been a little bit more imaginative or a little bit more creative in our seating, but I'm sure that they did this for a good reason. So once again, you can easily get out pretty much anywhere you want. The floor, the heat in the AC is a little bit different, as you can see on the Transit versus the Sprinter. That's the air conditioner up top. That's a rooftop AC. That's one benefit, one drawback. This is probably a more effective air conditioning unit. It's a rear rooftop unit, but you do give up about 9 inches on your roof, and so that can hurt getting you into a garage, you know, if you've got limited space. Your heater is 1 register on the floor, and it's also very effective, but it's not quite as spread out as the Transit. So that might be an area where the very rearmost seating, if this was full of 12 people, they might lack a little bit, but it is in the center, and so that's spread out. It should be spread out fairly evenly. I can't say which one's better, but just different. Let's go take a look at that Promaster. Okay, the Promaster 2500, 4-cylinder diesel. Different. It's cool. Maybe it's cool because it's different. Check out the floor on this one. I do have to say, even the floor on the Promaster is a little bit more solid and industrial than the Ford floor. I'd say it's actually a little bit even more hard plastic than the floor on the Sprinter van. I'm gonna be biased here and I say that I like the Sprinter van floor better. Check out the seats. Seats are actually pretty cool. They're firm. Now this van is a 15 and it only has 15,000 miles, so it's as close to brand new as a 3-year-old van can get. But the seats are clean, seats are solid. They are still a little softer than the Sprinter van seat. I really can't tell how they would hold up over a long period of time. Also aesthetically, they're handsome. I do feel like they're better looking than the Transit seats. But you know, that's kind of depends on your taste, of course. Let me jump in and show you just a couple things. Each of these vans has space on the top. The Sprinter has probably the most space out of all 3, but the Transit and the Promaster, their shelf on the top goes all the way across, where the Sprinter van is only sectioned on half of each side. So that's a little bit different. This van doesn't have anything too special as far as steering wheel controls or anything like that. It is cool. The shifter is different. So you're always going to be in neutral when the vehicle's off unless you put in your parking brake, just like any true manual transmission. So that's something you got to watch for. There's no place for a screen in this van. So I don't know where the backup camera goes. I would venture to guess that it probably goes on an image in the rear view mirror when there is one. This van is not equipped with a backup camera, but it's pretty basic. I do like the cup holders down here. It's not too far of reach. You wouldn't have to take your eyes off of the road to reach down for your cup of coffee. And then there's another coffee cup holder over here. Plenty of USB space, which is good. There's also USB just right to the right of the steering wheel. So that's a nice touch. You know, really in this day and age, if you're not accommodating your vehicles for smartphones, then it's a strategic error, in my opinion. Still plenty of room. You've got a clipboard here. It's just a smart use of space. which each one of these manufacturers do a really cool job of making use of these large spaces, and so it's not just a bunch of wasted plastic. So that's pretty cool. Got a pocket here, of course. Not a whole lot to talk about this van, but I'm gonna scoot over. You have to see the coolest thing on this van. This cargo partition. Okay, so you've got a cargo partition with a window. This cargo partition is lined and insulated. This has to be one of the most comfortable cabins in a cargo van that I've ever been in. Not only is it lined, but it's insulated as well. So this little space cools down and warms up really quick. So this van's gonna drive a little bit different than your traditional automatic transmission, and that is because, as you can see, there's no park. It is a manual transmission with no clutch. It's electronically shifting, and so it's gonna drive just a little bit different. And I'm not gonna say it drives bad, it just drives different. So I'm gonna switch it over into drive, and we're gonna hit the road. Little 4-cylinder, diesel kicking in. It's not the most quiet. I feel like I'm driving a little tractor, but it's fun. All right, and we're off like a herd of turtles. You can feel it manually shifting in there. A little clutch engagement. I'd say out of the 3 vans, this is gonna have the tightest turning radius. This van, the way it sits on top of its wheels is very nimble, which in a city setting where you're making a lot of turns and in and outs and stops and goes, that's gonna be very beneficial. This van is pretty smooth riding. I haven't spent a lot of time on it on the highway, but I want to say in town with lots of stops, with lots of deliveries, this van is going to do you really, really well. All right, we're going to get on start, get that clutch engagement, kind of a gap between 2 and 3, and we're off. This van definitely has less pickup than the Transit and the Sprinter. But again, they're vans. We're not here to race anyone. We're cruising at 60 miles an hour. It's pretty quiet. Get a little bit of road noise, a little bit of wind noise. The diesel is nice and quiet once you're rolling. There's other stuff on the road you can hear more, but I'm not gonna I can't say that that's more or less than any of the other vans. Again, you're driving a big box on wheels. 70 miles an hour feels pretty solid. The Sprinter van is governed at 82 miles an hour, and I don't know if this one is or not. I can tell you from experience the Transit is not, and I don't really want to push it past 80. So to accelerate from 70 and beyond, there's not really a whole lot left in the engine, but that's all right. It's holding up. It's doing its own. There's 80 miles an hour, smooth. It's solid. That's one thing that you'll notice about all of these vans is that they're all relatively tall, but the manufacturers do a good job of making them stable for as tall as they are at high speeds, and this is no exception to the rule. All in all, I'd say this is a pretty nice little van for what it is which is a little cargo van. All right, this is the 2015 Ford Transit 15 passenger long wheelbase 3.5 liter EcoBoost Transit van. This actually is my favorite driving van. That EcoBoost motor that Ford puts out is a hot little rocket. And you know what? For the way it drives, you got yourself a little cockpit here. Now I still say that there's more room in the other 2 vans, but nonetheless, it fits you in there pretty well. Gasoline engine. This is 310 horsepower. That's impressive. Nice and smooth, nice and quiet. Quieter than that diesel engine for sure that was in the Promaster. Definitely a whole lot more pickup. But you gotta give and you gotta take. So you got 310 horsepower. You're not gonna have as much towing and cargo capabilities that you are with that diesel, and your longevity is not going to be quite the same. This van has 93,000 miles on it. We took it in trade. and I drove it for about 2 hours. I drove down and traded them out. And I will say that 2 hours was a pretty comfortable drive. That cargo partition in that Dodge made a big difference. This van has a whole lot more noise to it. Of course, it's got a whole lot more van that's not insulated. I'm not doing this video to show you how well these vans will drag race, but just more give you an idea of how they drive, how they handle, if you will. So this is a very smooth riding van. The seat is very comfortable. I spent a couple hours in this van, and I will say that compared to some of the other vans I've been in, I could spend a couple more hours in this van and not have any problems whatsoever. The radio is not quite as intuitive as the other two. The Dodge Promaster was pretty simple. It had a temp knob, it had a fan speed knob and a blend knob, and that was pretty much it. And then the old school CD player like they all have. You could deliver a van and use the 3 C's of delivery. Say, see your van, see your keys, and see you later. And that's really all the explanation you would have to give on that Promaster, which is fine. It's just simple, especially from a fleet standpoint. It doesn't require a whole lot of technical savvy. This radio is not quite as intuitive. I did have trouble pairing my phone, but as a long-term owner, once you're familiar with your system, you won't have any problems at all, because all of these vans are laid out very intelligently. Not quite as strong of a turning radius as the Promaster. Actually, it's not a longer van, just laid out a little bit different. Still plenty of room to turn around. So as a larger vehicle, as a larger van, it's still very nimble. I wouldn't hesitate for a moment to drive this thing around town, and I wouldn't have any trouble pulling in and out of parking spaces or pulling in and out of busy areas, because these vans are very, very driver friendly. All right, last and certainly not least is the 2018 Sprinter passenger van. This is a 144 with the standard high roof in the passenger van. This is not the all-new 2019 Sprinter van, but this has been the flagship for about the last 8 years. So let's go for a cruise. This is the 3-liter turbo diesel, and yeah, just kind of my baby. Seats are nice and firm, nice and solid. Got plenty of room. It is governed at 82 miles an hour, in my opinion. I don't think I want to go any faster than that in this van, but it is very solid. This diesel engine has been known to put up to 500,000 and sometimes even 1 million miles on its engine. This has a 5-year, 100,000 mile powertrain warranty, which is super solid. Or 5-year, 100,000 mile, I should say, diesel engine warranty. In 2019, it'll be a powertrain. And also that Dodge Promaster has a 5-year, 100,000 mile powertrain warranty on its diesel products as well. So let's go for a cruise. This van is definitely more truck-like, in my opinion, than the other two. It sits up just a little bit higher, a little bit stouter suspension. No problem coming out of curves. No problem hitting little bumps and whatnot. So that's just kind of an observation, if you will. This van again is equipped with blind spot assist, so that's a huge bonus in a van, because you don't have you've got a lot of van here that the mirrors don't catch with everything. So that blind spot assist helps out a lot, especially on long trips. Still very much a diesel, not as quiet in the engine as the EcoBoost that's in the Transit. I'd say as far as ambient vehicle noise, similar to the Transit, maybe a little quieter, but I couldn't tell you. I'd say probably because of that insulated partition. If the Promaster had a gas engine, that would be the quietest running vehicle. But this diesel engine, you're going to get anywhere from 16 to 18 to maybe even 22 miles per gallon, which is considerably better than the Ford Transit. The 3-liter engine has a lot of pep. somewhat because of that torque and that turbo in it. So getting up to your cruising speed is really not a problem. I'd say this is probably the most responsive of the three vehicles. It does feel very solid. There's a feature on this van called Crosswind Assist, which I love. Now this is a very tall vehicle, and you'll get gusts of wind that come at it on the side of the van, and they have what's called Crosswind Assist. And when the vehicle's electronics recognize body sway brought on by wind, it will actually use the traction control system to offset that sway and keep the vehicle tracking straight. Which, you know, on a long drive, if you had to keep both hands on the wheel the whole time, that would get tiring. And so they do a really good job of making this vehicle drivable. One thing that I've noticed is that Mercedes-Benz, it seems like you'll see a whole lot more RVs and a whole lot more campers built on the Sprinter van chassis than you will on the other two. They do have them, but I believe that some of the reason for that is the way they drive, the way they handle, but also the way they last. So if you buy a $60,000 chassis and you put $100,000 worth of upfit in it, you've got a longer investment, a more long-term investment than say you would as a business cycle, or a longer purchase cycle, if you will. This also has a very sharp turning radius. I still think that Promaster turns a little sharper, but you know, you're literally sitting on top of the wheels in that other van. This is obviously laid out very comfortably. Gonna bust our U-turn. See if we can hit that inner lane again. I don't think we're gonna burn any rubber. Yeah, I would say, now it's hard to wrap out a diesel engine as far as RPMs go, but I think this one is probably the most responsive as far as get up goes. So this one got up the fastest, and yeah, we're up 70 miles an hour. I'm not racing vans, but you know, there's times where you have to get up and get out of the way. We all understand that. Got some wind noise. The more stuff you put in a van, the more it will quiet it, the more you insulate it. Get a partition in here, that'll help with some of that. But for a van that you could essentially live in, this isn't bad.